For me, the easiest thing for me to do is to just go through this and you say, Mr. Myers, stop! If you don't get it. All right? Sometimes there will be a situation where there might be another answer that would work that isn't what I wrote down. I will try to cover all the possibilities as I go through this. Okay? If I don't, then stop me. Rose, you getting yours out? Or
I'm trying to find it.
okay. It's page 255. Point and slope. That's the easiest way to do that. Some of you probably have slope-intercept, which is 3x minus 6 plus 1, y equals 3x minus 5. Some of you might have that. If you have standard or general form, then you did way too much work. Way too much work. Okay? All these will be worth 1 point. And of course, if you slope intercepted that, it is negative 2/5 plus 4, which is y equals negative 2/5 x plus 18/5, or 3 3/5. Hopefully you didn't do that. Hopefully you did that. X-intercept is 3, 0. So y equals 2x minus 3 is point slope form, or 2x minus 6. X-intercept of 3, y-intercept of 4. I would do that. You could do it in general form, which would be actually, I wouldn't do it in general form, but you could. I would do that as y equals negative 4/3 x plus 4 for slope-intercept form.
Why is it 4/3?
Because when you if you were to graph this, Lauren, you would get a blank screen while we wait for the machine to do anything. You would have a y-intercept of positive 4, yes? Yeah. And an x-intercept of 3, yes? Mm-hmm. So there's the line. Rise 4, run 3, right? But it's a negative slope, because from there down is negative 4 plus 3, or from there up is positive 4, negative 3. Okay? Y equals 3/4 x minus 4, or y equals 3/4 x minus 3. Both of them are the same thing.
Why?
Because if I distribute that in there, 4 times 3/4 is negative 3. And that is my point, x minus 4, y minus 0, in point slope form. Okay. You're comfortable with the slope and the point, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So point slope form is y minus y1 equals m x minus x1.
Yeah.
Well, y is 0, yes? So it's y equals slope, 3/4, x minus 4, yes? That's point slope form. If you distribute that in, you get y equals 3/4 x, and negative 4 times 3/4 is negative 3. So those are the same thing. That gives you the y-intercept. So that's y equals negative 2x plus 5. This gives you the x-intercept and the slope. So this, you could do y equals slope 5 over 6. X plus 2/3. That's point slope form. You could have had y equals 5/6 x plus 5/9. And you could also have had that in general form, which would have been a big yucky number.
Why would it have been 5/9?
Because again, when you distribute this in, you get 5/6 times 2/3, which is 10 over 18, which when my screen thaws will show up right there, which you then simplify to 5/9, because those are the same thing, right?
Then wouldn't it just be 6x plus 5 over 9?
No, because the 5/6 x, the 5/6 has to multiply by just the 1x. Okay. And x-intercept of negative 5 and 2, that means your slope is 2/5. So it's y equals 2/5 x plus 2. Making that whole page out of 8. Is there any one of those you wish to ask about, or can you all give yourselves a grade?
The last one, negative 2.
No, because again, Lynn, when you graph it, positive 2, negative 5, that's a positive slope.
Okay.
Yep. Two perpendicular lines intersect on the y-axis. They intersect on the y-axis, they share a y-intercept, right? And if they're perpendicular, their slopes are negative exponent, or negative reciprocals, right? So if I know that guy's slope, do I know the perpendicular slope? Yes, I find that guy's slope by putting it into slope-intercept form. 2x plus 8 equals y. So that's the slope I have. Is that the slope I want? What do I do to that slope to get perpendicular? I flip it. So 2 over 1 becomes negative 1 over 2. That's the slope I have. But my y-intercept has to stay the same because they intersect at the y-axis. So the answer is y equals negative 1/2 x plus 8. And that would be worth 2 if it ever shows. We know it will show, but it is a little frustrating while we wait. Any questions? These guys intersect. They're perpendicular, but now instead of intercepting at the y-axis, they intercept at a point. So I can't use slope-intercept form. I got to use point-slope form. But I still got to find the slope. The slope is negative 2x minus 6, right? So the slope I have is negative 2, but I don't want that. I want the perpendicular slope, which is 1/2. So now I have a new slope and a point. Slope, point. So all I do is write it out. Y minus minus 4, y plus 4, equals m, slope, x minus x1, x minus minus 1, which is x plus 1. Everybody cool? Do you need to see it in slope-intercept form? Or is that what everybody did who did it? All right, that also will be out of 2. Draw the line through negative 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. There is negative 3, 2. This line will be black. and it's got a slope of 2/5. So it's up 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. Right there. This one will be red. Through -2, -1 with a parallel slope. So go through -2, -1. Which means 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's that one. And then the blue line. This one will be out of 3. Through -2, -1. Oh, crap. Sorry, that should have been -2, -1. Son of a. -2, -1. Down there is the red one. And then still up 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4, 5. Through there. And then the blue one through -2, -1 that is perpendicular, which means instead of going 2/5, I go -5 and 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. It goes through there. So that's what your graph should look like. And that page is, I believe, out of 7. Yeah? Okay. Which graph is this? It's got a y-intercept of +6. So, and it's got a negative slope. So it can't be that one. It can't be that one. Has to be one of these two. This one goes from 5 to 5. That's a slope of 1. So it can't be that one. Has to be this one. D. Rewrite this in general form. General form means what does general form look like? No fraction, and everything's on one side, and the number with x has to be positive. So is x positive right now? So we're not going to move it. Everything else is going to move. 1/4 x minus y plus 2 equals 0. Not allowed to have that, so I multiply everything by what? 4. X minus 4y plus 8 equals 0. D, as in doornail. Determine the slope-intercept form of... Yes, Lauren?
I don't get number 6.
What part?
I don't get how you converted it
Okay.
to...
You're aware that this is general form.
Yes.
Okay. And you're aware that that is what I have to start with.
Yeah.
Well, describe to me the differences between what's highlighted in yellow and what's written in blue.
All of the letters are on one side.
Okay, so with the yellow one, I got to get everything on one side. Would you rather move the x and the 2 or just the y?
Just the one.
Right, so you only want to move one thing. So first step was 1/4 x. When I move that over, what happens to it?
It goes negative.
Negative y plus 2. Okay, now what's different in what's written in black to what's written in blue?
It equals 0.
Okay, so I've got to make that equal 0. What else?
Plus.
Well, no, because minus is just adding a negative.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that. But what do you see?
Is it not supposed to be a fraction?
Yeah, you can't have fractions. So how do I get rid of this divided by 4? I got to multiply that guy by 4. If I multiply that guy by 4, got to multiply everybody by 4. X minus 4y plus 8 equals 0. Got it? Okay. Next one, determine the slope-intercept form of a line that goes through that point. So I have a point, and it's parallel to that line. So I don't have my slope, do I? How do I find my slope when I have 2 points? 0 minus minus 2 over 1 minus 9. which is 2 over negative 8, which you would never write, negative 1/4. That's my slope. That's my point, yes? So y minus 10 equals my slope, x minus 8. But I need slope-intercept form, so I got to get y by itself. So y by itself with no brackets. Y minus 10 equals negative 1/4 x plus 2, because 1/4 of 8 is 2. Then bring that 10 over. What happens to it? It's negative, so it becomes positive. So I get y equals negative 1/4 x plus 12. C. That page out of what? 4? 3. There is a perpendicular line on this graph. It goes through 27K. I need K. What's the hint in that question? I have an x2, a y2, an x1, and a y1. So I have everything I need to find what? Slope. But I don't know the slope. But I do know the slope, because this graph gives me the slope of negative 5, 4, right? So this slope has to be perpendicular to this slope. What is perpendicular to negative 5 over 4? 4 over 5. And I know that I have the x's and y's needed right up there. It's K. I can't move because the computer's garbage. Maybe in 3 years I'll get a new one. K minus 14 over 27 minus 12. Which is 5K minus 80, 70, Mr. Myers. 5K minus 70. Equals 60. 5K equals 130. K equals 26. 2 marks there because you had to know a bit of stuff. What's this guy's slope going to be? Well, what form is he in? General. But if he was in slope-intercept, I'd know the slope, wouldn't I? Slope-intercept is y by itself. So 7y equals negative 4x. Do I need to care about the negative 10? Nope, because I'm only asking about slope. 7y equals negative 4x. Divide by 7. Y equals negative 4/7. B. Out of 1. And I think that's it. Making the whole thing out of 3 and 3 is 6, and 7 is 13, and 8 is 21 by my count. Everybody good? All right. That's all we're going to do there. Now, I won't bother recording your marks now, but I can't remember where we got in our systems. Did we get to... We only did graphing, yes? All right. So, the next thing is actually super easy. So I think we're just going to go ahead because it's real easy to learn from the video. You don't need to be here because you're not going to need to ask any questions, because the only thing that you need to do to solve a system is be able to do algebra. So if you can move around an equation, you can solve a system. Okay? So let's go ahead and continue on with that. This is page, I don't know. It's the page that says solve by substitution. And it's so easy that I could probably sit here right now. You could probably read this box, and you could probably figure out how to do it completely without me saying a word. Okay? But that's obviously not what we're going to do here. But you're going to read that box. And you're going to do step by step, we're going to go through it. So I'm going to highlight the first thing in yellow. Choose one equation and solve for one letter. It's often best to choose one that has a coefficient of 1. So which equation are we going to use? We're going to use that one, and I'm going to highlight him in yellow. So I've chosen the equation I wish to work with because he's got a coefficient of 1. And now we're going to solve for that variable. The variable that has a 1. Which is it? It's x, right? So if I'm going to solve for x, then x equals 4y minus 1. Does everybody follow me? It's pretty easy, right? We've already done this. We're just moving the equation around. Is everybody cool? All right. Now, step 2, which I'm going to highlight in blue. Take the new equation, which we just made, and substitute it into the other equation. What do you mean by substitute it in? Well, in English, what does that say? X equals 4y minus 1. Equals in English. What's the verb we would use instead of equals? I equal the teacher. I am. Right? I is the teacher, right? So x is 4y minus 1. What do you see right there? An x. So what do I write there? 3, 4y minus 1 plus 5y equals 31. Now, all of you should have noticed what happened here. We can't do algebra here, can we? Why? There's two variables. There's two unknown things here, right? Right now, behind my back, I have two hands. One of those hands has a little roll of paper. One of them has an eraser. You can't tell which is which, can you? Solve this. What's in my left hand? Can you tell? No, because there's two unknowns. Now, the little rolled up paper is in my right hand. What's in my left hand? The eraser, because you know this. So, when I did this, what happened to that unknown? It becomes a y, which I can then, now I only have one unknown. So now I can solve this. How would I solve this? Distribute, right? So the third step is to solve for that remaining variable. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to solve it to get y. 12y minus 3 plus 5y equals 31. 17y minus 3 equals 31. 17y equals 34. Y equals 2. Everybody good there? Okay, and then the third thing I'm going to do, the last thing, plug your solution into one of the original equations. So now I know that y is 2, correct? So I need to find x, don't I? Well, right there, it says x is this. What can I write right there? 2. So x is 4 times what? 2 minus 1. What's 4 times 2? 8 minus 1. What's 8 minus 1? 7. So x equals 7 and y equals 2. 7, 2. And then I check it. Is 7 minus 8 negative 1? Yes. Is 21 plus 10 31? So I did it right. Does everybody see how it works? Did we learn anything new? Nope.
Yes. I didn't know how to do this. What did he teach it?
Well, no, he didn't teach it because you didn't have to do this last year. But Mr. Hirschman taught you algebra.
He tried to teach this thing to us.
Okay, well, now you do. So now let's look at the second one. We're going to do all 3 steps. Step 1, choose the equation. Which one are we going to work with? Y. Because y has a coefficient of 1. So I've chosen it. Now solve. Y equals what? 3 minus 2x. Right? So there is my second equation. And I'm going to plug it in where? Everywhere I can see a y. Like right there. That gives me a new equation. 4x, oops, idiot. 4x plus 3, not y. 3 minus 2x equals 1. There's my third step. Solve it. 4x plus 9 minus 6x equals 1. Negative 2x plus 9 equals 1. Negative 2x equals negative 8. X equals 4. What do I do with x equals 4 now? I take that, x equals 4, and I bring it right up there. Y equals 3 minus 2 times 4. 3 minus 8, negative 5. Now, what is our ordered pair? 4, negative 5. Now, should you ever need to come to me and say, Mr. Myers, am I doing this right? Why? Because you've got the x and the y right there. And right here, you've got x's and y's. What's 2 times 4? Plus negative 5. So did I do it right? Yep. What's 4 times 4? What's 3 times negative 5? Negative 15. Is 16 minus 15 1? So did I do it right? So is there ever going to need to come up to me and say, Mr. Myers, did I do it right? Are you allowed to come up to me and say, Mr. Myers, did I do it right? What will I say? Did you check? And you will say no. And then I will say, go and check. Then you will go and check. And then you will look up at me and you will do this. Because you're doing your math right. All right. Now, what's weird about the third one? There's no variable that's 1. It's on the next page for you guys, right? But mine's right there. There's no variable that's 1, is there? But what do you see there and there? They're the same. So doesn't that mean that 4x equals 2 minus 5y? And if that, wrong color, Mr. Myers, you've been using blue. If that is true, and that's a 4x, then what could I write there instead of 4x? 2 minus 5y minus 20y equals negative 3. And then does anything change? Nope. You would just solve it. Once y is 1/5, what do I do with that? I bring it right up there. 4x equals 2 minus 5 times 1/5. 4x equals 2 minus 1. 4x equals negative 1. X equals negative 1/4. And what is my...
Is it 2 minus 1, 1?
2 minus 1, of course, is 1, Mr. Myers. Positive 1/4 and 1/5. Is everybody good? Now, what is the next thing in your books? Just out of curiosity. Is it a textbook page or is it a puzzle page? It's a textbook page. All right. And it probably looks like... I don't know what it looks like. Do some work on it. That's bothersome to me that it's not there. Hold up. No, I don't have it. I don't know why I don't have those pages. That's very frustrating to me. All right, I might have them in another notebook here. Let's check if I have them in summer. I do. Is it page 424? Okay. Do some of them. And then we're going to stop there. Because the next one, it's very, very easy to do the other way to solve systems, but I like to show you why it works. Because even though it's easy to do, there's four different things you can do to make it happen. And I like to show you why each one works. So I'm going to wait until I have tomorrow with everybody here to do that. Okay? If you finish these 8 questions up, which you will, do you guys have a puzzle sheet in there? Yeah. It should be, why did the president put vegetables in a blender? If you want some extra practice, knock yourselves out. The joke is particularly funny. Of course, it doesn't apply now because the current president doesn't choose to eat vegetables. He's too busy eating fast food so he doesn't get poisoned. Of course, the sheer irony there is fast food is indeed poison. So he is being poisoned regardless. But what are you going to do? You're going to hope that they realize, because now, luckily, we've been stuck with them for a year. There's only 3 more to go. 1 down, 3 to go. Unless maybe they finally impeach him, which would be good too. But they won't.
Or when North Korea decides.
North Korea is never going to send a nuclear weapon anywhere. For the same reason, Rose, that since the 1960s, when the Russians actually had a nuclear arsenal, not one missile that worked, and we still are here, no one is going to launch a nuclear strike. Because no matter how crazy they are, nobody is going to want to. Because wait, I got to do this right. Kim is his last name. Mr. Kim, should he decide to launch all of his nuclear missiles at the United States, he might hit 10 cities. The United States has the power to turn just North Korea into a sheet of glass. And there will be minimal damage to China, South Korea, and neighboring areas. Plus, the Americans will tell the Chinese and the South Koreans, you should get as far from the border as you can, because we are going to turn North Korea into glass. And no one is going to care. There were just as many crazy people in charge of Russia for the past 40 years, and we didn't have nuclear war. It would be much more concerning. Nah, never mind.